Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the JMTOYS 1/12 scale Night Ranger action figure. This is basically a third-party, unauthorized, unlicensed version of the Dark Knight Returns Batman. That's why you can't say Batman, can't say Dark Knight Returns, simply called Night Ranger. There's going to be a Dark Knight Returns Joker to complement this guy, but that one is not out quite yet. In the meantime, let's take a look at the packaging. I did order this from 1/6 Kit. It's a website that specializes in imports. As you can see at the front, big, fat Batman symbol, The Dark Knight Returns. Everything else is pretty much blank. There's no barcode, no credits. Here's an image of Batman from The Dark Knight Returns, but they kept it sort of elusive, only the backside. No barcode, no nothing. So with no further ado, let's open it up. Alright, now that we have this figure out of the package, here he is with all the accessories laid out. We have 5 alternate hands, totaling 7 interchangeable hands, and he should have 6, but mine was shorter to hand. And I reached out to the place I bought it from, 1/6 Kit, and he asked me to send a photo. I did, and bam, he sent a replacement hand to me. I have the tracking number already. Great customer service from 1/6 Kit. The dude that owns it, really passionate guy, very good customer service. Cool guy, very cool selection of items as well. So, now that story's out of the way, let's get back to the figure. This is basically a third-party, unauthorized, unlicensed version of the Dark Knight Returns Batman by Frank Miller. It's probably not sanctioned by Warner Brothers or DC in any way, shape, or form. That's why the name is different than Batman. Night Ranger. This is sort of a Mezco 1/12 style figure. Cloth soft goods. 6-inch scale. So let's take a closer look. Now, this figure is ugly as fuck. It is hideous, and it is supposed to be. It definitely captures that Dark Knight Returns aesthetic, that sort of vibe, although maybe a little bit too extreme. Batman looked like this sometimes. In a couple of covers, he was disgusting. Look, there's warts all over him, gross on his face. Old man Bruce Wayne, all wrinkly, very serious, big, buff, sort of round character. The cowl looks kind of different. The stuff on the forehead doesn't, I don't know, scream Dark Knight Returns. There's just a little sort of sculpted area on the brow. Short ears, it looks great. Now, I'm not sure what's up the slit here. It almost looks like maybe he got cut. Doesn't have it on that side. I know it's kind of weird. It's on both the heads. If I'm forgetting something, drop it in the comments below and remind me. Cloth soft goods cape with a bendy wire in it. It's longer than him, so it drags on the ground. It's got the sort of jagged edges. He's got traditional utility belt with a bunch of pouches, and he has that thigh belt with even more pouches. Cloth soft goods stretches out pretty nicely. Definitely has sort of a Mezco feel to it, although as I handle him, I'll let you guys know if I feel like he's crappier or equal to them. Pretty good looking figure. It's maybe just a tad smaller than I'd like, and the face, I don't know, the head seems like it's a little big compared to the body, and it is absolutely hideous, and I kind of like that. The trunks seem like they come down just a little bit too much below the sort of thigh area. I don't know. Overall, happy to add him to the collection. It definitely screams The Dark Knight Returns. I mean, just look at that thing. And a closer look at its face and head sculpt. Hideous. Wonderful. Still not sure what's up with that little sort of cut there. A closer look at his chest. You know, it looks kind of weird. I can completely understand what those middle bumps are, his abs, but then he's got little bumps on the sides, which I guess is some of the muscle definition on the different pieces. I can tell there's a cut here, so we have top part and a bottom part. But it just looks like he's got a bunch of sort of bumpy things all over him. It looks weird. Like I said, I can sort of handle these pieces here, but all this extra stuff just makes the figure kind of look bad. And then here's the figure, broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. And look at the cape here. Part of the bendy wire is already sticking out. That's quite the shame. I can only see that getting worse over time. It was actually sort of an easy fix. Just push the wire far in there and then sort of dug it up gently into the cloth. It'll soak this for a while, but I'm sure it'll pop out again eventually. Now let's check out his accessories. Let's start off with his hands. He has a total of 7 hands. Keep in mind, he should have 8. The general release has 2 of the batarang hands. Not the big a deal that I'm missing it, and I have a replacement on the way. Here he is, with his first set of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands with a pretty small grip. And to my surprise, he doesn't come with any fists. The Dark Knight Returns Batman should definitely have a pair of fists. And here he is, with his next pair of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands with trigger fingers. Then his third pair of hands. These are some semi-open hands. They look like they could be some grabbing, choking, or throwing hands. And here's his final hand. This is the hand with the 3 batarangs between his fingers, Dark Knight Returns style. Here's the peg on his wrist. It looks like the top part broke off, but it didn't. It doesn't really have that sort of, mushroom cap, little extra piece. So the hands, they're not quite as scared as I'd like. When moving around, it's easy for them to sort of slide off. In turn, you're not going to break that peg, but they don't stay on quite as good as I'd like. I mean, they're not falling off by any means, but they come off definitely easier than I'd like. Now let's look at his heads. He has 2 of them. One with a sort of regular expression, and one angry, teeth exposed. And the angry one is even uglier than the regular one. Here he is, with his first head. This one has the regular expression. And here's his alternate head. This one has the angrier expression. Here are his batarangs. He has 2 of them. They're silver. Traditional looking batarang, made of hard plastic. Here's a look at Batman, holding and getting ready to throw his batarang. Now let's look at his rifle. And a lot of you are going to say, why does he come with a rifle? Batman doesn't use guns. And as true as that is, this wasn't a traditional gun. This is sort of a grapnel launcher. He had a hook and rope, fired out of this thing, and then took down Two-Face. Rifle itself looks pretty good. We have the scope on top. It's mostly painted in brown. It's got a good looking barrel and a strap to holster it. Here's Batman holding that rifle. And here he is, holstering that rifle. I also wanted to mention that little thigh strap is removable. And you can shove it up pretty high to keep it sort of from there, but it'll come down over time and falls off kind of easily. But you can display him with it, which I do kind of like for the Dark Knight Returns, or without it for a little bit more of a clean look. Now let's talk about his cape. It's a cloth soft goods cape with a bendy wire on either side. The wire's not super strong. The cape is pretty big. It is longer than him, so it drags on the floor, which is a very sort of Batmanish thing to do. The cape itself outstretches to about that far, which is absolutely fantastic. And if you want it to sort of look like it's flowing in the wind or something, I like doing something along the lines of this. But the bendy wire is not that strong. You're not going to be able to have it really going up. So, the cape, I'd say the wire is not strong enough to support the size of the cape. At least not entirely. I don't know. I mean, it works a little bit. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing about 6.3 inches tall, which can translate to around 16 centimeters. And if you go to the top of the ears, about 6.4 inches tall. And for his articulation, starting with his head, of course, going to rotate side to side. He can look up about that far, down about that much, pretty nice. Can tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulders, a ball joint goes up more than 90 degrees, up, down, around. As far as going up, stretch it about that far before it gets rough. And you can see the wrist peeking out here. I mean, just push that thing back up, but I wish they cast the wrist in black paint. Then it would avoid this looking so dumb right now. He's got a butterfly joint, goes forward and back at least a little bit. Bicep cut. double jointed elbow goes in about that far. His wrist can rotate. It's also hinged and fairly easy to take out. Ball joint is torso. Rotate around. Forward and back. Another one is waist. Very tight there. Barely moves. Forward and back. Now the clothing has been sort of tight, sort of loose. I'd say it doesn't hinder the articulation too much here or here. But here it does. You see this thing sort of trying to fall off. The legs only go out about this far. That was very disappointing. I had trouble getting him into a pose where I wanted him sort of on one knee, kind of leaning back this way. It just doesn't go any further. And it just looks a little rough in this area. They could have done a much better job. I don't know, some sort of material, a little more give and stretch. I mean, I don't want it to look bulky in his crotch area, but that kind of sucks. They go forward about that far. Back not much. Got thigh rotation, double jointed knees, and the ankle. Forward and back. Rotate. Tilt rock the tiniest little bit. You can see wire poking out again. This area here, kind of rough. Just that really sucks. And here's a look at this Dark Knight Returns Batman with the Mafex Gary Kelly Robin in the Batcave in front of the Bat Tank. Dark Knight Returns style. And here's this Mafex Dark Knight Returns Batman taking its rightful place on my Dark Knight Returns shelf. You can see all the different versions of the Dark Knight Returns Batman and some Robins. Then we've got the Mutant Gang up here, and then the Sons of Batman above that. Now let's check them out. Next to some other action figures. Starting off with some other JMTOYS or JMTOYS. Here he is, next to the Red Sun Batman. This is a Russian version of Batman from an Elseworld story. This is the only other figure by JMTOYS that I have. Now there is an upcoming Joker from the Dark Knight Returns. I've already paid for mine. Should have him in about a week or so. The capes are very similar. The wire's not very strong. But the figures do look very nice. I'd say they're just a little bit worse than Mezco figures. They're definitely way better than Soap Studios. Now let's check them out. Next to some other Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. Here he is, next to the Mezco 112 Collective figures. I have 4 of their 6 Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. I'd say he's similar style to Mezco, but a little bit inferior. And here he is with McFarlane's DC Multiverse Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. Then, next to McFarlane's Armored Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. Next, with several DC Direct Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. Here are 4 slightly different versions. There's actually a 5th version from a 2-pack that has the thigh sort of pouches. I'd love to track that one down one day. These figures are old, their articulation's horrible, and some of them are broken. And now, with a couple more DC Direct Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. These are based off the Batman the Animated Series episode, Legends of the Dark Knight. Here's this Batman, next to a couple of Mattel Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. And here he is, with Mattel's Armored Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. Then, next to the Mafex Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. Next, with the Mafex Armored Batman figures. Here's this Batman, next to a bunch of different Gary Kelly Robin figures from the Dark Knight Returns by McFarlane, Mattel, DC Direct, and Mafex. Then, with a few of the Dark Knight Returns Joker figures by McFarlane, Mattel, and Mafex. And finally, with some Mutant Leader figures by DC Direct, Mezco, and Mattel. Now let's check them out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a JMTOYS figure, they're 6-inch scale, I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of these smaller action figure lines I collect, and work way larger, and I'm going to include as many Batman figures as I can during these comparisons. Here he is, with some Jazzwares Fortnite figures, and some SH Figure Arts action figures, and now with some Hasbro Marvel Legends, and Mafex Batman figures. Here's this Batman, next to a lint roller, and here he is, with some Mattel and Mezco Batman figures, then with both some Jazzwares and Mattel wrestling figures, and now with some NECA and DC Direct Batman figures. Next, with some Diamond Select Toys and Jack-specific wrestling figures, and finally, with some McFarlane DC Multiverse Batman figures. So overall, this is a pretty nice Dark Knight Returns figure. He looks good. His accessories are pretty nice. But he has so many flaws. I'd say probably the main issue is going to be the articulation in the sort of hip area. The clothing is way too tight in the sort of crotch or diaper area, and it allows very little posing. The hands don't connect all that well. They fall off easily. Mine was missing the extra hand, but I'm not going to hold that against the figure in general. I have a replacement on the way, and that's sort of a one-off for mine. The bending wire on the cape could be better. It's not strong enough for the size of the cape, and some of the wire is exposed, sticking out of mine. The little thigh pouches fall off very easily, and the lack of fists. I can get over a lot of that stuff. Some of it is just inconvenient, doesn't really ruin the figure. But as a whole, he has quite a few quality control issues. Still, it's a really nice looking figure. It is stylized even for the Dark Knight Returns, which is not necessarily a bad thing. If I were to rate this guy, it's a tough one. He looks good, but he has a lot of problems. So I think I'm probably going to give him a 6.5. And in some ways I feel like I'm underrating him. Other ways I feel like I'm overrating him. So this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to save the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.